What was the post-orgasm clarity that hit the hardest in your life? What happened afterwards?
Experience 1. Met a girl on Match.com in the early aughts. We chatted online. She lived about an hour from me. We spent a few nights and whatever on AIM. After a couple of days, she invited me over to her house on a weekend and we went out to dinner, started watching a movie, and then she jumped me. We went to the bedroom and had a pretty good night. After a few hours of fun, I was lying there looking around the room and noticed pictures of her and the same guy over and over again. I go, "Are you married?" and nod at one of the pictures. She smiled kind of sadly and said,
I was.
I said,
Oh, divorced?
Saudi.
She said,
Oh no, not divorced. He died.
I said,
Oh man, I'm so sorry. How long has it been?
9 days.
her Match account was made the day after he died. Edit, because people have speculated, here are some answers. 1. He died after having surgery. He was resting on the couch at home recovering and a massive blood clot formed in his leg and killed him. 2. She was very upfront and honest about it afterwards, but I was younger than she was. I was 22 to 23 or something. She was 28 to 29, so it did kind of weird me out. 3. She was very much looking for friends with benefits and non-exclusive stuff. At the time I was not open to that, so after maybe seeing each other 3 times we just kind of mutually called it off. 4. I did see her by sheer dumb luck a couple of years later at a friend's house. She was there with a guy, I think for the Super Bowl party if I remember right. We caught up a bit. She'd lost some weight and was proud of it and joked, "You should see me naked now," with a wink, and her date raised an eyebrow and she laughed. I took it as a joke at the time, but another friend told me I probably could have had a threesome. I never pick up on social cues. Experience 2. I dated an amazing girl, mind-blowing in bed. She was also a nutcase. Broke up with her for all of the right reasons. She came over asking to talk. She cried. She asked to cuddle. She made moves, and because I was thinking with the wrong head, we had intense and passionate intercourse. I've never had intercourse like that since. After we finished, I was so pissed with myself. I knew immediately I had screwed up. She starts crying and telling me that she is ready to have my kids, plan a wedding, etc. Had to ask her to not call her mother to tell her that we were engaged. She then went ballistic. What a mistake. Experience 3. PNC hit the hardest the last time I had intercourse with my ex. We had been together for a year, and she might have been the most manipulative woman I've ever been with. She played mind games, lied constantly, and lashed out at me for the most minor things. After I nut, I realized at that point I was only in it because she was drop-dead gorgeous and wanted to screw all the time. The relationship ended a week or so later. Experience 4. Agreed to stay in Airbnb with someone for an overnight intercourse stuff, but couldn't stand having to have intercourse with her again. Texted and instructed my brother for some extraction plans, LOL. Left immediately after my brother called. Experience 5. Met a guy online one day, had him pick me up that night at like 3 a.m. and bring me to his apartment an hour away without telling anyone anything. Hit me like a truck when I realized how lucky I was that he was a good person. Experience 6. Be me, 19, working a $90K a year job I didn't qualify for that a family member got me into. Banged this really pretty junky chick that I met at a late night coffee shop. She took me back to a warehouse loft she was staying at and she wanted me to hit it raw, and she said she had to do heroin before we had intercourse or she couldn't orgasm. Said she was clean and had an IUD. I said I wasn't comfortable and wanted to use a condom and asked her not to involve drugs. Her response was to pull an up-to-date OBGYN or STD exam and then offer to gape her vagina so I could see her IUD. I declined the offer of physical proof, but still had unprotected, and some of the best I've ever had, intercourse. We're at like 10 red flags here, definitely horny jail. Post-orgasm, I could only think, WTF was I thinking? This lady had to be lying to me in some capacity. Go directly to horny jail. Afterwards, we had some pretty intimate conversations about our lives and how both of us ended up where we were and got to understand one another. After that, we banged casually over the next 3 years or so under the condition that we could both sleep around. She was allowed to do heroin while we had intercourse, and we had a clean test whenever we wanted it. Honestly, a really kind woman and a good person treated me better as a person than any other woman I've ever met. I was really uncomfortable with her drug problem and regularly encouraged her to stop and said we could have a relationship if she got clean. Eventually, we stopped having intercourse but stayed in contact. She didn't update her IUD and got knocked up by someone else she never saw again and decided to stop talking to me. I really hope she's doing well today and got her crap together. Super good person. Telling this story at 29, I still wonder if I'm an asshole for doing this every time I bust a nut. Experience 7. Not really post-nut, but met a girl in Miami. We got a room where I'd never had intercourse before and didn't that night. We were getting into it and my conservative Christian background took over and I shut it down. I said I wasn't going to go through with it, then we went to sleep. I woke up and she was gone, and she took my driver's license. So good times. Experience 8. I paid for an escort. She got me all worked up and then said, 2 girls for a little extra, so in my pre-nut brain said hell yes and transferred money that I was barely aware of. The 2 worked me for 2 minutes, then one walked out while the other stayed on top. I realized after I nut and felt disgusted with myself. I wasted $700 and since then have decided not to pay for it again. Also, one time I had a partner who turned out to be racist. A few months after we broke up, I got pre-cut brain fog, messaged again, and as soon as I nut, I regretted it, as she started talking crap immediately. Ugh. Experience 9. Realizing I was in a bad marriage. Realized I had fallen into one of those negative stereotype marriages of little/no intercourse, controlling wife, happy wife/happy life situation, but it was very difficult to make her happy and the reward for doing so was nothing. Basically, to the point of begging for intercourse and affirmation and would only get the occasional pity. Got super depressed until she did us the favor of divorcing me. Aside from still dealing with some of the effects of getting kinda screwed over in the divorce process, super glad to be free from that though. Experience 10. A friend of mine was house-sitting a very fancy house for a while. He had been chasing this one girl he had a crush on for a long time and decided he was going to try and shoot his shot. But he knew she had a bodyguard, another girl, who was funny and fun to be around, but was considered quite unattractive and on the large side. They went everywhere together. So, my friend invited them and some of our other friends over for drinks and a swim. Being only a few streets away from the house, my friend's crush and her bodyguard came around quite early. I remember climbing out of the pool and being approached by my friend, who had been inside with the 2 girls. He wanted to go with his crush, get some drinks, and be alone. He needed me to be a wingman and keep the bodyguard busy. And well, me being me, I agreed. I told the bodyguard I'd keep her company whilst the other 2 went to the shops in a flirtatious way, to which he told me not to threaten her with a good time. Being the wingman, I had to keep flirting to convince her to stay. Eventually, my friend and his crush left, and as soon as they walked out the door, the bodyguard asked me about her entertainment. I pointed out that the other people could be over any minute, so her chances of getting lucky were probably a bit slim at this point. She then told me we shouldn't waste any more time then. And right there, that is when I should have realized I was thinking with my midsection/not thinking clearly. So, we screwed. And by screwed, I mean hard. Just kept going at it. Until the others came back. Then the post-nut clarity kicked in. I felt disgusted with myself. Disappointed. She was going to tell everyone, and she was going to paw at me for the rest of the night. And she did. The looks of absolute shock the others gave me haunted me all night, but it worked. My mission was successful. My friend hooked up with his crush and ended up dating for several years. Experience 11. Mine happened pre-nut actually. It was a night of drinks at my aunt's place on Christmas. We usually spent Christmas and Nye there and usually had parties with my cousin's friends. One night a friend of my cousin's, who was at the time his best friend, was drinking with us. It was her, me, another cousin and his girl, and my cousin who lived there. Throughout the night I was pretty drunk, and we were talking, then we somehow started flirting a bit and immediately went to get ice. We made out and went back. Eventually, during the night, it's this tension, and as the drinks keep going, I start giving less of a crap about the fact that I absolutely don't find her attractive and just give into it. Eventually, my cousins go to bed, and it's just us downstairs in the bar. We finish our drinks and start to make out. We move to the couch, and I start kissing her boobs and touch her down there. We're both pretty drunk. She reaches down my pants, and I'm hard. I am removing her panties and start going down. As soon as I get down there, clarity hits me. She's about 140 kgs, and since I'm committed, I dive in, I eat, but I'm thinking the whole time, what am I doing? Then it suddenly hits me. She asks me to go inside her, and I ask, do you have a condom? She doesn't. I don't. And I escaped not completely unscathed, but not gone all the way. The next day it was like nothing happened, and none of us told anyone what happened. We kept being friends and playing flirting the same way. We always did. Nothing ever happened though. At least not since. Experience 12. Oh man. I don't post long texts like this. My personal throat goat was this 18F I met. Got sucked off by this redhead girl that I met the month meeting her at work. We worked graveyard shifts. I just moved into an apartment, 24M, feeling good, you know. We texted for about a week and had some of the craziest sexual convos. My roommates went out of town for the weekend, so I invited her over. We made out. She had some really huge tits with pierced nipples, loved it. As we got into the foreplay a bit more, she whispers to me that she is unfortunately on her period. And in my head, I'm like, damn, that sucks. No pussy. Well, that wasn't going to stop her from showing me a good time. She refers to the text message convo we had earlier that week. She goes, I'll still suck your midsection like how I promised I would. She gave me one of the best blowjobs I've ever had. Like a sloppy top. Made all that gawking noise. Deep throat. My nose pressed up against my freshly trimmed pelvis. Told her to go slow for what I thought was 30 seconds in, but it was somewhere between 12 and 15 seconds because I was going to bust so freaking quick. After, I just let her do her thing. I can't even find the words, but imagine that feel-good nut sensation, then an icy hot pack placed on your chest, the side of the heart, as I nutted in her throat. Her throat was so warm, and dare I freaking say it, better than pussy. That was my slice of heaven. She really had a grip on that throat. She took the whole family. And she had braces, which just made it so much sexier. She kidnapped all the kids. Not a drop missed. It was hot. My post-nut clarity hit kind of after the pillow talking. She had some crazy-ass freaking stories when we cuddled in bed. This girl was extremely comfortable after I nut. Some of her ex-boyfriend stories were filled with scenarios of them being abusive and crap. I never even asked this girl about that. I don't know how that convo even came about. She goes on to tell me her dad is super strict, and if he knew about us too, he'd flip his lid. I guess he was some white racist dude. She then goes on to add that she is about $8-9K into debt and doesn't know how she's going to pay her car payment on time. I'm like a year old, WTF? I hope she's not hinting at me to pay her car note. Did my best to dodge some of these convos. I guess you would say I screwed up not kicking her out later that night, but I'm kind of not a dirtbag for the most part. She stayed the night and I guess she had a good time. Because I woke up at around 7 a.m., her mouth wrapped around my midsection again. Morning wood. No problem. Just another beautiful moment burned into my memory. I did not dare stop her. This moment was on my bucket list. 1. Wake up to a blowjob. 2. Travel the world. 3. Have dinner with John Cena. Afterwards, I did my best to not speak to her again. Dodged her best I could at work. Rarely texted back. Stayed too busy that she got a different dude entertaining her, so I feel I dodged a bullet because he would tell me his financial stories of paying for her stuff a month into their dating.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories. If you want to see more stories, check out these videos or check the links in the description for more videos. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And ring that notification bell.